Are you giving everything you have? And no, I don't mean more than normal or quote unquote a lot. I mean everything. I'm currently reading the founder of Lululemon, Chip Wilson's autobiography, and there's kind of a cool little side story in the book where, he talks about his days of being a swimmer, and one of the races he competed in was the 100-meter backstroke, which is 4 lengths to the pool. And Chip mentions that the general strategy at this time was to conserve energy, right? And then on the final lap, you turn it on, right? You give everything you have, so you finish with that energy, look good at the finish line, and hopefully it's enough to kind of push you past the competition. And before one of his swim meets, his dad calls him up with an idea. He says, Chip, why don't, instead of conserving, you pretend this is only a 25-meter race, 1 lap, and you just go all out like a bat out of hell. You save nothing, 1 sprint, and just see how your body adapts for the rest, right? I think he even jokes, hey, if you start drowning, buddy, I'll jump in and save you. And Chip, who's an admittedly mediocre swimmer at the time, he listened to his dad. And the race starts. He goes out as hard as he possibly can for the first 25. When all is said and done, you fast forward to the end of that race, not only did he win, he'd broken the Canadian record by an insane amount. I think it was like 7 or 8 seconds. Not because the race changed, because his perspective changed. The way he approached the race changed. And you think of all that potential, right? All of that energy was just being wasted. It was kept in reserve to be used at a time that never arrived, right? I mean, literally, the race would end before he could empty that tank out. And even with that sprint, who knows how much more he had left? Could have been more in the tank. And it's like, when he figured that out, how much he was leaving on the table, it was game over. I had a coach in college who would say a similar thing. He was the freshman coach of the rowing team. Great coach and probably one of the funniest people I've ever known. He'd remind us at the starting line, I'll give you the G-rated version, he'd say, gentlemen, go out with everything you have. Remember, it's better to go out too hard and empty your tank too early than it is to cross that finish line not having emptied your tank at all. Both of these little anecdotes, right, they paint a picture of the magnitude of human potential. How our default setting is to conserve, to protect, to not go all in. We let so much go to waste. We allow fear to dictate output as it shines a spotlight on a time that never comes. Right? Why would you give everything? It's whispering, hey, but what if you're tired in the final 90 seconds? Save some. Hey, don't give everything. Hold back. It just gives us wrong info. And I'm obviously not saying, start an ultra marathon at a sub 5-minute pace. I'm just pointing out the truth that we keep too much in. There's more in us that never gets shown, never gets exposure. The reality is, if we all move that dial just a little further, if we acted like every day was a 25-meter sprint and not a small part of a 200 or 100 or a piece of a marathon, where could we be? See, the body has an incredible ability to adjust and recover. In fact, that's one thing that makes human beings so special. We can adapt. And I know I've recently, with my own workouts, as a 38-year-old man, I'm getting better results now than I've ever gotten before. And part of that's because I'm understanding that if I push myself past the brink, the world does not implode. I just recover. And in fact, I recover well. When you ask yourself for more than you've ever given, your body, what feels like miraculously, it finds a way. You drop yourself into the maze of discomfort, you will find your way out. It's just that we don't often green light that journey. See, this isn't a story about right and wrong. It's a story about more and the option before you, the opportunity before you. What happens when you press that pedal all the way to the floor? Do you know? Have you ever? When was the last time? I'm not asking for anything you can't give. I'm not. But I am asking that you try and find that line between possible and impossible, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how hard it is to find. Those endpoints, they let you right through. Those fears are revealed to be nothing more than little ropes around the elephant's leg. When one realizes it can pull, when one understands his or her strength, the ropes never stood a chance. They were merely an illusion. So go out of the gate like your life depends on it. Like you trust yourself. Down the line to find a way. Because that's exactly what you will do. Elevated heart rate, sweat dripping down the forehead, lungs on fire. All of it becomes elements of your symphony, your crescendo. Forget what the fear is saying. Forget that your mind is warning you about 4 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes down the road. Stop saving the best of you for a time that will never come. It's your time now. If you see past the mirage that is fear and decide that it is. Hey gang, Eddie here. So I've been building something alongside your world within. It's called AGNS, Always Grateful, Never Satisfied. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know exactly what that's referring to. That duality of appreciating the present moment, but also not being afraid to ask the world for more, for diving fully into your potential. And I'd love for you to be a part of this journey as we build and build and build. I have a free newsletter, agnsnewsletter.com, where you'll get daily motivation, monthly challenges, as well as updates on all the exciting things we have coming around the corner. So if you're so inclined and you'd like to be part of this journey, I'd be honored for you to sign up. Link will be below. Look forward to seeing you there. You are not for everyone, and that's okay. That's a simple truth, we'll call it, that I've picked up over the years, and it's had a pretty profound impact in not only how I look at the world, but how I view myself as I navigate the world, right? It's particularly useful when you've lost faith in the path you're walking. You've sort of forgotten your power. And I want to share with you a pretty cool reminder of this very thing. A couple days ago, I was having lunch with a friend, very charismatic guy. For the sake of this little story, we'll just call him Friend. And he's telling me about someone that he's now working with in his business. We'll call that person John. And my friend says to me, you know, Eddie, I am learning so much from John. He's adding so much value to what I do, I can't even describe it. But he's loud. And he's controversial. And he rubs some people the wrong way. And not everyone loves John, right? So I'm sort of connecting the dots as he's saying this. I'm like, okay, clearly John pisses a lot of people off, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. I'm putting two and two together here. But my friend goes, but you know, he's exceptional at what he does. Maybe the best in his lane. And so I don't care, because John's not for everybody, but he doesn't have to be. And you might hear that and initially think, yeah, okay, where's the value, right? Some jerk is helping your friend at work. Well, to me, it felt bigger than that. It felt like fate was screaming that ever-important reminder. To focus more on extreme authenticity than trying to reverse engineer what other people might say or think. It's like, stop trying to manufacture their reaction. Because when you're you, the reaction is out of your control and not your problem. Love John or hate John, he is 1000% John. And because of that, he'll find his people. Because of that, he won't dull himself down or dim his light. Because of that, John is free. Quick dive into my mind. I certainly have areas of my life, let's say particularly with my brand and my content creation, where I can be bolder, where I can take more risks. Everyone's got their personal arena. That feels like mine, right? That's absolutely unequivocally true. I'd be lying if I said my brain doesn't try to reverse engineer stories and topics that will have an impact. Like, I understand what works, and I roughly stay within that framework. That, in and of itself, can be restricting. Never reckless. But I don't know, maybe there are places I should be or could be more reckless. That's what makes this journey so fun. You are your own experiment. You're always learning about yourself, you're always growing. And the more ought-tos you shed, the closer you get to your power. And by the way, I know not everyone here has a business or brand or posts on YouTube or Instagram. Wonderful, right? Those are just a few examples of many, right? This applies across the board. Because I do wonder whether we all have parts of ourselves that we dull down. And that's the question, right? Are there pieces of ourselves that we don't share because 1/3 or 1/2 or hell, 3/4 of the people we meet will say, nope, not for me? Are there things you want to talk about, hobbies you want to try, places you want to go, art waiting to be made, stories waiting to be told that are ultimately never brought to life because we'd rather be half of ourselves for a majority of the crowd than be all of ourselves for the right minority of the crowd? It's a button that I'm always pressing. I guess because I see and I've seen firsthand how much talent lays dormant. People I know, people close to me, old friends, acquaintances. There's just so much there, so much in the tank, so much canvas left blank. And so maybe, just maybe, this is finding you at that perfect moment. Or at the very least, prompting the thought, acting as a little reminder that you weren't put here to be for everyone. You weren't put here to be for anyone. You're here to be you. Not a little bit you, but as much you as you can possibly give to the world. You're here to continuously uncover what your authenticity is, and with each step, attract those who belong in your orbit. It's like, not only do you get to live a life on your terms, but you get to do so with those who value what you're bringing to the world. He's not for everyone. Thank God. That's how you know he's really making a difference. What is the complex but an accumulation of that which is simple? What are big things, if not just a multitude of little things? There's comfort in the understanding that all we have in life, all there is simplicity, easy to understand pieces. It's just that sometimes we stack them so high that they start to take a new shape. But like Greg McCune references in his book Essentialism, the power isn't always in acquiring answers. You already have them. They're in front of you. The power is in cutting away the things that don't need to be there, removing all that stands between you and your ideal existence. And I think that's one of life's great misunderstandings. We don't need to find more. We need to remove that excess until we're face to face with what matters. And to adopt this principle, it's nothing short of liberating. Chaos, confusion, disorder, they don't imply that you lack the right things. They suggest you haven't stripped life of the wrong things. You have not simplified. 1,000 miles is intimidating when you look at it holistically. It's a long journey. But it's just a collection of steps, and well, shouldn't we find solace in the fact that anyone can take one step? It's not a game of complexity. It's a game of understanding what's in front of you. And what's in front of you is always manageable. So much of our stress stems from forgetting what that journey is made of. Whether it's a change in career, mastery of an art, some kind of personal transformation, the result we want. When looking at it from the starting line, it's too complex to understand, too many pieces stacked up. So let's break it down. Let's find the foundation. What's really there? What are the 1, 2, 3 things we need to do? What is that golden question? What matters? If you lose sight of that, then you will stumble through life. I've learned this. I've lived it. The time I take to myself every day is invaluable to me because I ask myself those 2 questions. What matters? And what are the simple steps I need to take? What can I remove? I was talking about this during an interview this week, my personal growth. And one of the most important aspects has been the understanding and the zeroing in on what's important. I used to take so much pride in composing the background music to these speeches, end to end. Right? I used to love to be able to say I did it all. That was, so I thought, the great differentiator. But ultimately, I learned to take a step back and ask what matters here. What do you care about? It's the storytelling that I love. It's the impact. And let's be real, no one cares who wrote the background music. It's holistically, how does the piece make you feel? Right? And this understanding allowed me to cut away, license the music, save 2 days a week, acquire clarity, and realize my goal is not to be Mozart. My journey is to be one of the great communicators, storytellers of our time, and if a day goes by where I'm not taking a little step towards that, it's the wrong move. Small example in the grand scheme of things, but right on point. It's the power in understanding what matters that makes a difference, that allows you to grow, evolve. And I'm confident that this not only applies to long-term pursuits, but also our challenging times, the dark moments, the periods of uncertainty and discontent. Same concept. Where do you want to be, and how do you get there? What's the simple thing you can do to close that gap? Because you are never helpless. You can always do something. And my friends, those little somethings ultimately evolve into everything. And when we put our phone away, step beyond the noise, spend time with ourselves, we can see how much of life is running in place. Stacking and stacking pieces that aren't even part of the masterpiece we're trying to assemble. If you want answers, start with the understanding that they're buried under mountains of things you don't need. So cut away. Cut away the people and places and things that convolute your story. Cut away the exhaustion of time that provides no value in return. Cut away the thoughts that make life more complex than your journey from where you are to where you'd like to be. As you stand right now, you have everything you need, and there's nothing greater than that, nothing more powerful than that understanding. So why not step outside the complexity that you've manufactured, that you're living in, into a world of clarity, simplicity, and capture what matters. Courage is designed to move. Which is why one bold action can completely transform your life. It's why one step forward can create space for you to experience and obtain things you've never had before. I've been sharing with you quite a bit lately how I've essentially rediscovered Greg McKeown's idea of essentialism. Redefining focus, cutting away excess, refusing to operate at 65% on many things, right? And instead focusing 100% on the thing that means the most to me, right? Going all in on the right thing. Might seem small, but I promise you, in our world, it's not. And the other day, I was in the car talking about how basically when you go all in on that thing that feels right, alignment's the word I've used many times, but that thing that's right for you, when you give it the attention and time and energy it deserves, the universe seems to hear you. It's like it gives you strength back. And obviously there's a pragmatic element to it, right? It's like what you water is going to grow. You can only improve what you focus on. But that relationship between attention, effort, and life seeming to help pave a way for you when you go all in, it's so strong that it makes me think there might be more to it than that. It blows my mind how quickly, after realigning, things happened that haven't happened in years. It's like you commit to something and life arms you for the journey. You lock in and you are, in your own way, provided wings. And I'm explaining this to Jules, who's riding shotgun. She goes, I love when that happens. It's like courage creates vibration. One of those light bulb moments, right? Exactly. The vibration of courage. Courage creates space for everything you need, right? That courageous act. And by the way, everyone knows what that is in their own world. That thing they should be doing, or that thing they've wanted to do, right? Depending on the season of life. Maybe it's going faster towards something. Maybe it's slowing down a pursuit that isn't quite right. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more. Maybe it's solitude. Maybe it's putting yourself in more social situations. right? Locking in on one thing or exploration and discovery. It's different, it changes. But you know what that is. Because you think about it. Because your soul communicates with your mind. Whatever it is, it's an arm's length away. The extended hand of courage doesn't mean the pursuit or task before you will be easier. In all honesty, it's probably the opposite. You are voluntarily stepping out into the storm. But what courage does, despite the chaos or voluntary turbulence, courage gives you a chance. It puts you in the game and allows you to tell and show the world who you are. I sometimes laugh at the disconnect that once existed between my actions and who I wanted to be. Big plans, big goals. But I was only willing to take minimal risk. The world simply can't hear you from inside your house. It can't translate a dream into a reality or transform hope into tangible progress if it remains tucked away in the back of your mind. Not until you find the courage to set it free, to give it to the world, to start that ripple effect or vibration that will lead you hand in hand into the unknown. When you own that for yourself, the lens through which you look at life adjusts alongside you. Everything is now in the context of how to create that storyline. The same things you once walked right by become props in the play of your life. The right people become wind at your back, and the wrong ones fade back into yesterday's chapter. Life wants to push you forward. It wants to be an ally. So let it. Allow it to be the wind at your back. You have incredible thoughts, brilliant ideas. There are game-changing opportunities that need you to breathe life into them. So here's a thought. I want you to wake up a few minutes earlier this week. If you're a coffee drinker, get yourself a nice cup, sit in a comfortable spot, and for those few moments, get out of your head and into your heart. Paint a picture of what lights you up, a could-be reality. And then choose one courageous act that will take you to that day, that will bring life to that vision. Not tomorrow or the next day, but today. Right now, this very moment, and watch how that consciousness, that decision infiltrates all areas of your life. Watch how it acts as a brush, painting, seemingly a black and white landscape and puts color into it. It's the start of everything. The power you've always had, the sound of strength, the heartbeat of your future self. It's the sunrise before a new day and the sunset that gives way to a sky full of stars. It is the vibration of courage. From your fingertips to God's ears, from your soul to the world, it's where you were meant to go. So my friend, go there. I find it interesting that what we want most is often brought about by the inverse of what we'd expect. It's a paradox that's amazed me for much of my adult life. And what do I mean? Well, here are a few examples. The best way to achieve freedom in your life is to be incredibly disciplined. Two things that are seemingly opposite in a sense. or that the worst of times often open the door to the best of times. Or it's from a position of strength that one is best able to ensure peace. Or from our suffering, our pain, comes our purpose and contentment. Right? And you get the point. I could go on and on and on. But the reason this is so important, why I think it's worth discussing, is that it sheds light on the value hidden within our struggles. You know, when you realize the paradoxical nature of growth, the discomfort makes a little more sense. It's easier to wrap our hands around. So let's say getting up early. Perhaps you weren't a morning person, but you're trying. You're trying because you think those few extra hours in the morning will add some lift. Right? The alarm clock goes off. The last thing you want to do is open your eyes. Maybe you even start thinking, who cares, right? This isn't that important. You begin rationalizing ways you'll go back to bed and just make up for the time throughout the day. But when you simplify the equation, you realize what you have is an opportunity. And you're either going to say yes and capitalize on that opportunity, or say no and stay where you are. Discipline, even with the small, seemingly trivial stuff, becomes freedom. And if you want to position yourself for a life on your terms, where you're at the wheel on your schedule, it means facing demons just like this. It means you fight your fight now so that you can mitigate it later. Rather than saying, I wish, or beating yourself up for not being a little bit tougher in the moment, you instead get that sense of accomplishment. You get the luxury of time and freedom. And I think that's a simple but perfect example of how discomfort in one moment becomes contentment in future moments. Not a very intuitive trade-off. Or how about our low points? We all know no one escapes low points. I've always found them easier to handle and internalize when I know that it's bringing me closer to something valuable. When I know that there's something good on the other side and that the pain I'm feeling, the thoughts that are inevitably going to pass through my mind like clouds on a windy day, they're obviously not ideal, but they're not a waste either because something will come of them. And the goal in that moment, under the duress, is not to move the immovable. After all, you can only control what you can control. But it's to simply put one foot in front of the other until you emerge from the storm, because we all eventually emerge from that storm. It's when we get into the habit of trying to do what is outside the scope of our control that we do ourselves a disservice. Because look, we're human, equipped with human biology and human emotions, navigating a tough world that is indifferent to how we feel or what we think. And while we can certainly strengthen and fortify that emotional IQ, the reality is no one is on a high all the time. Life is ups and downs. And when we realize our superpower is not to fight the down times, but to accept them, take them in stride, learn from them, and extract the value, we empower ourselves. We're giving ourselves permission to live life just a little fuller after what we've experienced. The human experience requires many seemingly contradictory puzzle pieces all working together in unison to create that final illustration we're looking for. Not just discipline and freedom, not just low points and high points, but countless others. Jordan Peterson, of course, famously discusses chaos and order, and how both not only exist, but are pivotal to a fulfilling life. We are designed for chaos. We must step out into unknowns, situations that feel bigger than us. The courage to do so ultimately becomes the pathway to order. As we get used to the change, we acclimate, we find our answers, and ultimately create a sense of fulfillment. The challenge being that now we have conquered our demon, we must prepare for the next. Because just like too much chaos isn't good, too much order is equally destructive, right? Another example of something we'd assume as negative: chaos being the thing in actuality that paves the way for better days. It's a staircase. I've heard Tony Robbins say something similar when talking about our need for both certainty and uncertainty. We must have some elements of everyday life mapped out, but too much creates a mundane existence without the adventure and growth we've been looking for. It's from the unknown we capture more of ourselves. It's from the uncertainty we get growth. And I say all of this, not just because I think it's fascinating in and of itself, but because it's incredibly easy to forget, especially in the thick of things, that it's all essential to life working the way it should work. Those losses become gains. The disappointment becomes growth. The down times become launching pads to evolved experiences, greater adventures, and new chapters. It's certainly not intuitive to look in the mirror when amidst life's chaos and say thank you to the universe. I get that. I'm not implying that you should. But I am saying it helps to know, it helps to be aware of the paradoxical nature of your journey. I look back at the times I was most fearful or angry at myself, and if I could go back and tell that version of me one thing, it would be that all that adversity is going to push me forward. That I'd never have the things I wanted most if I didn't step into all that discomfort. That it's going to be okay. That I'm going to be incredibly thankful for it all, and so will you. This is the push-pull of life. The chaos and order of the day. It is not in spite of, but because of those moments, you'll be more than you've ever been. The human experience is a paradox. And the quicker we get that, the quicker we let it work for us. No more fighting unwinnable wars, but rather taking all that we can control and using it to lift ourselves up, to be our best selves, to make tomorrow the miracle that it can be.